who have been ATP partners for a long time, new members. I see folks just flowing in, and I want to thank Nina and Walt and all of the team at ATP for supporting us in the education division. We're excited. What we're doing is revitalizing the whole education division, and we welcome everyone who is joining us today. It's just a pleasure to have you with us. I think the reason why we almost say we broke the internet on this a little bit is not only the topic, really, when we think about AI and how that really relates to learning experiences and career pathways and the whole idea of making sure that people have access to be able to do the learning they want to do. It's also really the speakers and the participants that are with me today. I'm so honored. I'm so excited. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Debi Crimmins. In my day job, I'm the Senior Vice President for Global Client Advocacy at Prometric, and we really focused on all the good shared services that support all of our partners around the world. But I also am the co-chair of the Education Division for ATP, and we are excited, as you can tell, and enthusiastic about what we're calling the relaunch of our Education Division. But the real stars, the folks who are joining me today. And as you can imagine, they are on the road. And so we are going to give them lots of grace and lots of flexibility as they join us from all over the country really right now in our fireside chat, our webinars. We think about what AI means in our educational spaces. First, Dr. Jesus Jara is the K-12 Global Practice Leader at Prometric. A lot of you know him as the former superintendent for the Clark County School Systems, and he's on the road. He's doing the things that he does right now, and we're so glad that he's able to join us. Michelle Kinley, also on the road, our Chief Operating Officer at EdPower, a really big expert vice president of school improvement when we think about all of those partnerships around the country and around the world. And Amanda Jewell, Vice President of Assessment and Development, our psychometrician star. You know what I love about Amanda is she makes things very real. She knows how to take data and analysis and has such a deep background in K-12 education. And we wanted to spend this time almost as a fireside chat. So as you're listening in and thinking about some of the conversation that we're having, please feel free to add any questions that you might have in that chat area, and we'll do our best to really look inside that chat area and understand how to interact with our participants. But I thought I'd start with Dr. Jara a little bit. You know, your role has evolved and changed, and you've seen so much when it comes to AI and maybe what it used to be considered and what we're thinking about what it could be considered. How does that affected your journey? Like, just tell us a little bit about yourself if people don't know who you are and what you're doing at any given moment all day long.
Well, no, first of all, I'm just fortunate and lucky to be on this panel with these wonderful educators, experts. Michelle and I go back a long way, you and I, Debbie, and I had the pleasure of meeting Amanda just when she joined and I joined Prometric I've been on the job for about what 8 months, I think, and I talk about our assessment team, and I say, I've been in K-12 education for over 26, 27 years, and you meet these wonderful people that you get to do some amazing work, and they can find ways to do assessment. Amanda is one of the best in the world, right, globally. So my journey started in the classroom back in Miami-Dade. I won't take long time to just kind of sharing, but I've been a teacher, bilingual educator, and I've been a school principal in Massachusetts. I've led small school districts, and just finished walking out. Actually, it's been a year since I left the superintendency in the Clark County School District, fifth largest district in the nation, 300,000 beautiful children. Enjoying Prometric first as a consultant, really expanding and going into K-12. So when you think about when I first started my conversation with our CEO, who is a passionate, transformative leader in really sharing his vision for K-12 for Prometric, and I said to him, I want to be a part of it. Meaning, as a superintendent, I need the tools that you're talking to me about, because of the power of giving teachers, educators, building leaders tools to be able to be more efficient in their work, provide more assistance for all children, and I know, when we think about equality and high level instruction, these are tools, but then also then you bring in Ed Power that we brought along and looking at data to be able to help us make decisions and have the insight to really transform. So I've been on this journey and now thinking about what is going to be so different because our world has changed, as we know. Testing has not. And Amanda will hopefully talk about that. And that's one of the things that, as a superintendent, we had just these summative assessments, one point in time telling us what kids, and whether they move on into the next phase. And how do we then find ways to measure dual role skills? And the exciting piece for me being part of Prometric and being part of this global conversation, how do we assess durable skills? How do we assess and find ways for children to be able to demonstrate that they're more than just a one point in time test, right? That we can find ways to be able to have not only the durable skills, but then also demonstrate to the employers. And this is, the exciting piece and the work we're doing in Prometric globally. Our last webinar, Debbie, I was in South Africa, I believe, and now I'm in Denver, Colorado.
You're ever home. And I think that when you think about what all the pieces that you just said, it is that global education journey and how we're taking assessment and how we're taking AI and how we're taking tech and content and how it's becoming the toolbox and maybe revolutionizing. I think that was even part of our title, how we do what we do. You and I chat a lot in different webinars and different opportunities, and we always wonder what life might have been like, right? If we had
Yeah,
had some of these tools a long time ago when we were in classrooms and we were
right.
in the districts and we had these tools. But you also brought up a really good piece. And I think, Amanda, if you don't mind sharing a little bit, when we start to think about even the theme of this fireside chat together, it's really how when we think about assessment, how it's changing, how it's helping to define, what we can be and should be doing with personalized learning and pathways with students. And I think that's always been part of your journey and how you've ended up not only in your role, but what you've done. Can you share a little bit with folks so they understand really what background you're bringing to our conversation today?
Absolutely. So I have a strong background in K-12 assessment. I started as a high school math and computer science educator in California and just kind of fell into this career, and that was decades ago. I think over 25 years ago. So I've seen a lot of change between paper-based, computer-based, the way we assess. And to kind of leverage off of what Dr. Jara said, it's not just like a global change. It's looking at lifelong assessment now, right? So we have an
Right.
opportunity to look at how do we bridge the gap between high school workforce certification and licensure, and really having that continuum. So through my career, I've had the opportunity to work in all of these industries, to
Okay.
work in high, mid, low stakes, to work in international, stateside. And so that gives a great perspective of where it's not, we don't want to just get one point in time. We don't want to have, I think, we have to always be aware of just the inherent biases that play into this too. Just when we assess what we expect from our learners. Again, not just in K-12, but in pre-workforce and workforce, to ensure that we are delivering assessments that are fair, that really give us a great picture of our students and our candidates, and to make sure that we are always aware of their experience so that we can really make sure that it is equitable for them. It isn't a one size fits all, and that's how it used to be a couple decades ago. It was a one size fits all model. Now we have at our fingertips with AI and
Yes.
VR, we have ways to really customize assessment, which is a huge opportunity, but also a big responsibility for us in the testing industry to make sure that we utilize it in the correct manner.
That you couldn't have said that better. I mean, that what an opportunity, and but what also a way to make sure that assessments can become personalized and can be helping a student along a pathway and help them to understand what that journey is, but what it also means to be really careful about it, right? I think you and I would agree. I think, as you and I have talked many times also about, as technology has advanced and as AI tools have advanced, how we have the responsibility to make sure that they're not only building that pathway, but that we're also making sure that what we're assessing and what we're learning about students is accurate, it's safe, right? It's really always propelling folks forward. Michelle, thank you, Amanda. We're giving so much grace to Michelle. Michelle is actually in the airport on the way to work with some of these wonderful clients that she's always working with. But Michelle, if you don't feel like it's too loud, and we all understand the Zoom and the Teams ever since COVID, right? There's the dogs and the post office and things go wrong. And, if you would talk just a little bit about your journey and how you became so connected to, when we think about assessment, technology, and all the real deep district work that you're doing. And don't you worry about any background noise. We are all
Okay, I'm
forgiven.
sorry.
It's
Yes.
okay.
Well, hi, everyone. It's really great to be here with you today. I have been in education for 25 plus years and started because my mom was a teacher and she taught gifted and actually got into educational technology when I was probably around second or third grade. So we were on Apple IIe's, really young coding, and I was always her test case on how we could move forward. And so educational technology was really always integrated in my life from very young. And then when I started as a special ed teacher and realized the distinct need for educational technology and technology in general to just propel the different levels in a classroom, I don't really think I could have done it or had any success without having technology in my classroom. And so the advances that we're doing now are spectacular. I was in a school the other day and I was watching kids that had AI manipulating a heart with their hands and taking a look at the ventricles. And I was just thinking, man, if we would have had that experience, just how much further would we be today as humans? And it's just exciting to see the connection between the two and how education is really changing because of AI.
And it is, isn't it interesting too? And your sound is perfect. I don't know where you're hiding in an airport, but I am really impressed because we know what the life could be like, but it's the change and even how AI has been coming into play where, at first I think, and understandably, and this is for all of you, there was, maybe some skepticism, maybe some hesitancy. I, as a former high school teacher and principal and assistant sup and just been in the whole education role, always, well, I think everyone who's probably on this panel and joining us today, technology can't replace us. Technology can't replace us. And I don't know that it ever was supposed to. I think maybe it's evolving in a way, like you just said, where you could see students and they're doing things, virtual reality, and using tech to deepen that science learning about the human heart or about the lesson. And that maybe what is happening with AI is it's giving us back time to teach and time to think, right? And time to have professional learning communities. I know folks joined today for a lot of the key words, and the career pathway is a big one. So I wonder if Dr. Jara might start us off, and if then Amanda and Michelle, if you might weigh in, and this will just be more of a conversation. How are we seeing these AI tools or the power of assessment help our students with that future workforce and that future kind of career pathway development? I think, I don't know, Dr. Jara, if you're ever not talking about that. So I wonder if you might share a little bit of where you're seeing career pathways in tech and AI coming together.
No, absolutely. And after I answer, I'm gonna have to step out because my meeting's I'm being called to the meeting. But I think that's the beauty of where we are as an organization, Prometric. When you think about our customers, our clients, are which is the ones that Amanda and our assessment team and you globally with our partners, FINRA, ASC, Adobe, right? And they're looking at some how do you look at and build the workforce now? It brings you down into the K-12, right? So you look at K-12 as our kids are graduating, the jobs are different. I remember when you say these things now, well, we're teaching kids for jobs that don't exist. I remember being told that, right? The jobs continue to evolve. Our kids are moving faster. The kids that we have today, right? They're digital natives. I mean, my own children, they were on iPads, on phones, right? And then they
Right.
come to school, and I used to say to my teachers, and myself, I used to say, well, then we slow them down. And I think that's one of the things that, how do you use artificial intelligence for kids? How do we encourage kids? Because they're using it at home. How do you get them to think differently? And how do you help them with not only, this is where you think about the durable skills in those jobs that they're going into the workforce to be able to partner. And I think that's where the not only the curriculum that's being taught, the tools that we have, when you look at how do we score how do we use tools to help our teachers? So then not only when you look at our fine-tune tool, when you're looking at catalog, how do we look at, and this is where I'm going to make put the kind of the plug in, the shameless plug in to say, we have the tools that our teachers can say, hey, here are the standards that I'm supposed to be teaching, and let me put my curriculum through catalog so then it can tells me that deficiency. That takes time and energy for our educators to go through that. Now we have tools that then you can have the conversations. How do we then use Generate to build item banks and assessments using AI to the level, to the rigor of the standard? And some of these tools, right? It's giving teachers their time back to teach and leaders to be able to do that. But then in the classroom, right now, how do you help kids? That when you think about the jobs, right, when we're measuring, how do you help them understand? And then how do you measure critical thinking? How do you measure some of these other durable skills that you can do that? And I was the biggest critic as a superintendent. I'll be the first one until I met Amanda and Nikki.
Yes, you were.
And Amanda and Nikki, they said, well, here's how we do it. Because as brilliant as they are, they're finding ways to measure some of these skills that our children are really demonstrating to be able to be a great citizen in the workforce.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's a teacher, right, that or that any of us know that don't want those students to move forward and find the pathway, the career, the journey that they're meant to have. And, I don't know that we always knew as educators, right, if we had gaps in our curriculum, if we had standards gaps, right, if we had maybe the right CTE program. I almost think of the work now that even Amanda's leading and some of the research that's happening out there. And we think about career paths and CTE kind of reimagined. We are at a point now where we can look at badging, right? And thank you, Dr. Jara, and certification and the whole idea of using AI to help that. Amanda, can you talk a little bit about that? Just the idea of, where could we be heading for career pathways when it comes to a new vision of maybe the CTE kind of curriculum? And I know Michelle can weigh in on that as well.
Sure. I mean, I was thinking as Dr. Jara was speaking that, when we talk about the durable skills, I
And
feel
for
like
people who might not know what that is, what's your version of a durable skill? Excuse me for
so those
interrupting.
are the soft skills like communication,
Yeah.
interview skills, empathy, things that it would really be difficult to assess in a standard what we call exam. And I know that at least somewhat in my like personal ongoings with having children, and I have a lot of family and education, that one thing everybody talks about is how students now just have their heads in their phones, so they're not learning to communicate with each other actually face to face, have difficult conversations. You just nowadays can send a text, you can post a link, you can send an email. You don't actually have to have that. So then when you get into the workforce and you actually have to present yourself for an interview, you have to present yourself for bedside manner in some of these career pathways, customer service. These students don't necessarily have those skills. They have the book skills, but they don't have those skills. And so there are now ways to assess those types of skills using AI and
That's incredible. I mean, that's incredible. It really is incredible. When you think about that, that didn't, again, exist. I'm dating us, right? But I'll date myself, not you. But the idea that you could practice those interview skills, or how to work collaboratively, or how to deal with conflict in a safe way, what does that kind of look like and feel like now? How is AI helping us to do that?
Well, it's really exciting because we have we have a partnership with Mersion, who has
Mhm.
avatars that come on
Avatars.
screen.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
come and they give you the experience. And we were doing some work for demos a couple of
Mhm.
weeks ago. And so we had a couple of students go through this, and to watch them and to hear their experiences of it was a safe space. If I messed up,
Right.
I knew that there was an avatar there. I wasn't on the spot in a real interview, but I could practice. I
Right.
could use my skills. And so it's really about providing these students with a full portfolio of skills. So
Right.
we want to make sure they know the book skills. We want
Of
to make
course.
sure that of that in the career pathway, whatever that may be. But we also want to make sure that when they get out in the real world, they're able to work with others, and they're able
Amazing.
to work with whether it's coworkers or clients, customers, patients, whatever pathway they choose to go through, that we've prepared them for the whole picture. And I think that that's where we have the nice bridge to our certification and licensure clients, is that we can actually back map. We can
Yeah.
look from them and say, what is it that's lacking? What are you
Right.
looking for? And then we can advise our K-12 partners to say, this is what they're looking for. This is what they need. And we can actually bridge that gap to make sure that we prepare students appropriately. And I think that's really exciting. I think
Yeah.
and then you add AI into that mix and the virtual reality. And so then we are meeting the students where they are. This is the
Yeah.
world they live in. Dr. Jara was saying that he would say to his teachers, we're slowing people down. This isn't slowing down. This is speaking to students on their level, their comfort level. It's sometimes you have to look at it that it's us that's uncomfortable because
Yeah.
it's new to us.
Good
It's not
point.
new to them. It is
Good,
not
good.
new to them.
Good point, right? We probably look at our kids. We have kids similar ages, right? You and I have talked about this before, that are just kind of moving and shaking, and they're doing things and they know how to work this tech. But what I really love about the research that you're speaking about is that you just talked about the full picture, right? You could start in school, you could make sure that they're on that right career pathway. We could look at standards gaps, we could understand what the content might need to look like, we can make some tweaks, we can have personal assessment happening. Then we can also make sure that as they get into the real world, that we're assessing their ability to function in the real world, to give them good feedback, right? To have those good interview skills, to conflict resolution. You mentioned, bedside manner. I think of all the organizations that you work with in healthcare and financial, and what's so interesting about all these groups that we have the pleasure of working with and who are longstanding members of ATP, and I know that are on these calls with us. They say, we want to build really great candidate cohorts as people come up through school and they come into our career pathway workplace, that they have all of these qualities. And that now that with AI and now with virtual reality and a lot of the technology, we're actually not only able to practice it, you're building assessments to give feedback to those students, to give feedback to those leaders, to give feedback, even to the individual student, to know where they want to improve. And maybe it's safe. It doesn't feel like it's such a stressful experience because it's an avatar, right? And I've seen some of those simulations as well. And again, I wish I could have practiced that way. I wish I could have myself learned some conflict resolution skills, right? Or interview skills that way. I think along the lines of providing, and I'll call it access, when we think about where you live or what you might be able to now be able to practice or to be able to participate in. I know, Michelle, that's a lot of your work. And again, no worries on background noise. We again having such grace for you in an airport, but talk a little bit about maybe what Amanda was sharing about what this AI, what these tools are able to provide to maybe to districts and schools that don't always have that access right at their fingertips, how it's kind of opening up pathways for people.
Okay, sorry, it's a little loud right now.
It's okay. We are all human.
So really, I think the key for schools that, because there's such a diverse thought process about it, I think the underlying theme is that there really just needs to be thoughtful integration of, whatever it is that they're putting, along with student-centered and really human focus at the core of all of it. And leveraging the AI for efficiency and personalization is really what I see is helping students get into it, meaning you were talking about immersion and how they're interacting with the avatars. And I noticed that they interact with the avatars more than they interact with humans. And so seeing
Right.
them, answering the avatars, and I was watching a student do reading lessons in literacy, and they were speaking their words. And I said to the little girl, do you enjoy working on the computer, or would you prefer working with your friend over here? And she's like, the computer, because whatever
Interesting.
the name she had, I think it was Priscilla. Priscilla knew her very well. And I thought that was funny. But I just think that all of it, the intersection of all of it is fantastic. And even with, and I'm going to jump to one of my favorite things with that we have, Dr. Jara spoke about earlier, is just, as a former administrator, and you guys know as well, spending those summers having to hire people to overlook catalog, curriculum, and to understand where we are. And it just took months. It literally took months and so much
Yes.
money to figure out
Yes.
what was I going to do with the district? How are we moving forward? Where are the gaps? Or I don't even know if I was even truly as concerned as I should have been about where the gaps were in the curriculum, because there was so much else going on. And with some of these AI tools like Fine Tune and Catalog that can literally scan every single piece of technology or curriculum that you have and give you those gaps, it's a game changer. And it's a game changer because you're able to now take a look at not only your academic standards, you can take a look at industry standards or workforce standards or your CTE standards or that college to career pathway to find those holes, find the holes that are in your curriculum, fill them without feeling the pressure and the stress that we have felt historically for all of these years, trying to get the right people together who has the right content knowledge. Can I know whatever? And now you can just figure it out, have your list, and then make a roadmap that actually focuses on the growth of students. And to me, that's where we're at. And
that's the game changer. That's why you're in an airport right now, because as we go and we work with our districts and we work with our partners to give, I said it and we all have said it, give people that time back to teach or to do professional learning communities or to focus on where there might be a gap in a curriculum at a certain content area and a certain grade level, and to put the extra time and energy and focus on supporting that. I don't know that I was ever trained in how to do that. I don't, right? I mean, we did our best. We do gap analysis and we try to do assessment creation and we try to write even content and bring the people together over the summer and have these groups. But I don't know that in my background or in all of our backgrounds, sometimes we were ever really trained to do that. And it almost feels like now technology is doing what it was meant to do in giving us the data that we need so that we can really focus on the individual student, the curriculum pathway, the career pathway. And it is exciting. I know because you're never home either. So you're always very excited about that piece as well. We gotta keep going. No, keep going. Yeah.
I think it also really helps remove bias because
yes,
you can build, as long as you're having the diverse data sets that you need to include in the AI, it helps to remove that bias. And I know that I brought biases. We all bring biases to the table, and
absolutely.
AI, I feel, is really helping to equalize the playing field.
Yeah, and I don't know that we would have even known how to do that as well, Amanda. That's a key piece for you. I know when you even mentioned it in your opening, with the research and the work that you do, how are you seeing, just these tools and technology with the bias perspective coming from a psychometrician, a data analyst? How are you seeing that help the bias, Amanda?
Well, I think that there's a couple of things. One, it's when you use AI, whether it's to to line up curriculum, line up standards. It's very consistent. Humans,
Right.
we drift. There's no, you do your best, but
Humans
there's
drift. Yes.
consistency.
Yes.
So there's consistency, which then removes bias.
Mhm.
Secondly, when you're developing items and you create models, we can feed the bias and sensitivity guidelines, everything that we expect to be taken into consideration into the item development models. So there's that piece of it where when the models are generating items for you, they start out with the bias removed from it. And
Right.
then, I have to make a plug that I don't believe we're ever going to get to where there's full human removal from this. So we still need to
Good
check
point.
it.
Good
But
point.
it's getting us between third and home and probably a lot further than that. But
Right.
we always need our subject matter experts to take a look at this as well.
Yeah.
And then I think thirdly is on the other end of it, when you're scoring and you put the AI into scoring, again, there's consistency. We
Mhm.
have inherent bias as humans. And so we're able to also remove it from that side of it. So through the whole continuum, um,
Mhm.
there are multiple points where by feeding the AI the information that we need it to have, and also utilizing its consistency, we are able to remove bias that we may or may not have noticed was even there. And I think that that's a huge power of it, not to mention just the efficiency of it, the efficiency and allowing, again, to circle back to what everybody said, allowing educators, allowing item writers, curriculum developers, assessment directors in school districts, giving them some time back to have their boots on the ground, doing things with students, with teachers,
Mhm.
and letting the machines do what they need to do as well.
Well,
So
and I mean, I couldn't, I'm like, we're all preaching to the choir here. I think we're believers, even the people in the chat, like we're looking at how this is a tool. Did you feel the shift in your role? And as you've gone through your career, did you feel the shift where AI was starting to become that new tool that was allowing us to look more closely at bias or how to develop assessments better, especially in the work you've done? Just wondering if you had that aha moment where you kind of felt, okay, not that it was ever not going to happen, but did you remember that moment? I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
no, I absolutely though remember, I mean, throughout the past 25 years, I think the most major shift was probably to computer based testing and
Right.
assessment. And
Right.
now all of a sudden things are moving like this. It's an industry that's been kind of slow to
Right.
innovation. And now we've got all this innovation. So, I would say in the past 5, 6 years, 6 years ago, there was such skepticism about it. Oh, what is this? Oh, there was doubt. Oh, I think a lot of fear, a lot of,
Sure.
oh,
Sure.
what are we going to do with this? How can, they can't, the machines can't do this, that kind of thing. And now people are embracing it and really looking at the power of it and how it can help us, how it can just be a tool that we not only can use, but should use. And I think that, again, to tap into that fear, I think that a lot in education, it's about what if students are using it? What if, you know, just again, wanting to curb cheating, that kind of a thing. And I think Dr. Jara was saying in some call I was in earlier this week that like students have always cheated. So this is a different mechanism, and not to make light of it, but
Mhm.
we do have to be aware of it, just like we again I just think that over the years people have started to embrace it more, have seen the validity and reliability in it, and really it's the AI component is something we should be like partnering alongside with, and not fighting. And
Yeah.
I think that as long as you put into place protocols, safety protocols for, security, that there are, I know that we have a lot of terms of use of how we are using it, whether it's with
Mhm.
our clients internally, all of that we have those in place. We also have, you know, you want, depending on the large language models and whether or not you have the walls up between them, that kind of a thing. I think that the more you educate yourself on it too, the more power it has. And I know last year at ATP, AI was the ATP conference. AI
Right.
was a really, really hot topic, as it should have been. And I remember sitting in sessions and thinking, okay, we're doing this. Like, we're all embracing
This is
tech,
happening.
this is happening, but being able to share, and I found that so valuable, that people had their kind of their tips and tricks, lessons learned. And I think that, you know, it's an industry too of testing professionals. We need to make sure that we're sharing this information, because it's going to propel our industry so much further, as well as we need to yeah, so again, I just think it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, you've got a lot of people agreeing in the chat, and I'm kind of monitoring that. And they, someone was just mentioning how, we can't, bias is always going to be there, right? Cheating might always be there.
Yep,
Humans have bias. AI doesn't work without humans, right? It's that kind of that big balance of
absolutely.
that. It is, not all AI is created equal. You got a lot of good comments that people are weighing in on, because what you just mentioned, and you are such a good educator for all of us, Amanda. Even all large language models aren't created equally. And so as we are building these things and using these things and thinking about tools, there's always going to be that synergy between human and technology, and how are we as humans really utilizing that technology for assessment, for content, for instruction, for gap analysis, and always being careful on what it means to have that bias front and center. This is going to put you both on the spot, because I know we're wrapping up, and I've got to, let Michelle get onto her plane. And, you all are working with so many districts and so many organizations and associations, even globally. I know the hours that you all are keeping and the people that you're working with. Are you hearing certain requests for things like what, if you were like to look into the future, or as you work with folks, are you hearing kind of maybe where we might be heading next with technology needs, maybe desires for a district, just in general, if you were to kind of be just looking into the future, and that could be for Michelle or Amanda, what are you hearing? What are people looking for or careful about?
Unmute myself. One of the things that I heard that I was fascinated with last week when we were in Tampa, actually, Debbie, was the need, they would like to see robots constructed to help special ed students on those really, tactical granular skills, or PTOT. And so there's a few districts that I'm told that are going to be taking a look to see if they can introduce some type of robot at the younger level. And I was like, wow. So that just blew my mind. I can't wait to
Well,
see the integration of
right.
all
And just to
as we
see
move
perhaps
forward.
how it becomes a learning tool, right? How it
Yes.
becomes the not the replacement of the teacher or the educational experience, but a learning tool, a learning tool.
Mhm.
And I know you'll go find where that's happening. Amanda, are you hearing anything similar or different?
I was just trying to think, and this isn't overly recent, but Michelle brought up the being able to feel and look at the heart. And I
Right.
think in science, there's just always been such a need for that hands-on. How can we have the hands-on experience to give the students that? And I think there's a great opportunity there. I know that a lot of companies have the mechanisms and the tools for that. I think um, that's a really great opportunity, that students can see things that maybe that they're an experience that maybe otherwise wouldn't be able to. Maybe if they're in a small district or a district, a rural district, something like that, that they will have exposure to things that they wouldn't otherwise. And I think that's
Yeah.
a need, is again to really bring a lot of these tools into all districts, not just the large. ones that can.
Absolutely, absolutely. We were working with some wonderful folks in the New Mexico area, and they're smaller districts. They're and just like there are all across America, right? And that
Yeah.
they could have the experience, virtually with not only the durable skill practice, right, but also with the experience of what that learning about science in a different way, right? Or really looking at uh, you know, uh, really looking at, what content used to might have been as flat, right? But more now kind of three-dimensional or experiential. And I think as we move toward that, that just opens up access to communities and districts across the country, regardless of whether you have an educator or an expert that's right on site, right, for that. I think that's a
Mhm.
piece. Another piece too, though, just I thought that you mentioned though in your conversation the idea that we're getting to a point now where we can get support with scoring, and that might not be brand new, but I wonder if you kind of have seen the kind of progression of what that has looked like when we think about assessment and scoring and how now AI might be helping with that.
Well, we are currently in, we use AI scoring for writing. We
Right.
have seen a lot of
That
success with
blows
that.
my
And
mind. Like as a former English teacher, I just
Mhm.
can't even imagine that. Not that I want that replacing me or my feedback, but to help me in thinking about that, right? In writing.
And again, there's parameters set where we
Mhm,
then have a
mhm,
human reader behind, if
mhm.
there's certain parameters that we have set to make sure of that. We're also looking at a couple of companies that are able to score mathematics and physics and look at the entire problem so that you
Yeah,
can see the process and not just the answer. Just
right.
like a teacher would do. And, being a former high school math teacher, I understand that you wanted to look at the whole process. Didn't just want a multiple choice item. Huge
Right.
power in that. And I'm sure that as the years go by, we'll see that getting, closer and closer to perfect. And so that's really where I've seen the scoring success.
Right.
Again, it's something that wasn't there years ago, and it's something
No,
that
no,
I don't believe is going to ever 100% replace
and
humans. I mean,
shouldn't.
I've
Right.
seen some of that in the chat that like,
Yeah.
we always are going to need the human
Yeah.
look at it.
Yeah.
Um, I also think that we do have to be careful. I saw in the chat as well about just introducing too much AI in replacement of humans and where we place it. So, it's
Good
great to
point.
use AI to take care of the processes, the procedures,
Mhm,
let's call it the busy work. So let's
mhm,
call it that, what Michelle was referring to over the summer, where you needed to do the curriculum mapping and the
mhm,
standards mapping. Let's not exhaust our educators with that. Let's
mhm,
keep them fresh so they can go into the classroom and have the
mhm,
personalized learning with their students because
mhm,
they aren't so bogged down with
mhm.
the process and procedural
Yeah, no,
information.
you bring up a really good point, and I saw the comments in the chat as well. I think
Mhm.
Michelle, even when you were mentioning, the young one that was liking and felt safe with the avatar, because she would rather work there, maybe in some ways, and maybe I'm thinking kind of the big picture here. The confidence that she was building and is building is helping her to want to work more with the humans. Michelle, is that a stretch, or would you think that that's a way for, those children, adults even, to practice safety and to learn the skills and the communication skills so that they are transferable and not lose that human element?
No, absolutely. You actually made me think of something else. The first time I saw Fine Tune's catalog and the return that it gives once you understand your holes, it shows you sort of why the DOK level isn't what it should be, and it gives you like descriptions
Mm,
on how you can, or why it
mhm,
is or isn't, and why it determined that. And I'm just like, wow, that is so great, because I know I had teachers that might have been new or that were fresh out of college and that didn't really even understand what DOK was. And to be able to use the AI that we have to fill those skills, not only with students, but most importantly with those that are teaching our students, and to not do it in a way that they're feeling diminished or that they don't know what they should know, but just to have them explain really simply, this isn't a DOK4 because of these reasons. And it's actually taught me a lot about
Yeah.
curriculum
I mean,
myself.
it's actually, it's also, it can help the educators, feel safety. And maybe we weren't exactly taught how to really
Right.
kind of tag that
Right.
way or create content at that level. And if we can build our expertise, and if AI can help us do that, but also take away some of the anxiety of it, it is the best of both worlds, bringing the tech and the humans together. First of all, that Michelle, you're doing this from an airport is incredibly appreciated. I want you to know that. And Amanda and Michelle, I think we could spend just hours with our participants have been incredible. So many people, again, joining from so many parts of the world, all, US districts to associations and organizations, because I think when you think about technology and AI and what we're talking about today, whether it's career pathways or CTE kind of reimagined, or providing that equity or that access, or just looking at technology giving us back time to teach, and connecting our cohorts to our associations and organizations, we've come a long way, and there's probably a lot farther we're going to go. And it's because of people like you who are educating and sharing your passion and your knowledge, and on the road, and all of our folks who took time to join us today, that I think we keep growing as an organization. So I want to thank you, Amanda, and I'm going to thank you so much always, Michelle, and Dr. Jara. I know you'll watch us recording. Walt, I wonder if you might come back to us and help us close out with just an invitation to those of you who will be in Orlando at ATP. Come join us. We've got plenty of sessions we're doing. We won't do shameless plugs of all the names of the sessions, and we have the pleasure of working with an amazing education division, and we want to help and almost, when I say revitalize it, invite people to come join us. We'll be having our education luncheon. It's kind of a relaunch. It's on Monday, the 25th. It's 12:30 to 1:20, and Celebration 5 and 6 at the Hyatt in Orlando. Amanda will be joining us. Dr. Jara will be joining us. I'm going to grab Michelle. She lives close by. She's coming. She's a Floridian. And we want to talk to you just about the education division, the future, the strategy. We want to have regular webinars, conversations, coffee chats. Walt, Jesse, and I, as a team, we couldn't be more excited that today's registration kind of broke the internet a little bit, and that people were able to come join and are excited about what the future is going to be. So on behalf of all of us today, I want to thank everyone who's joined us, and we hope to sincerely see you at our education luncheon. And thank you for everything that you did today, Amanda, Michelle. I know you tried really hard in all kinds of traveling environments.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you all. Everybody have a great day. Thanks, Walt. Thanks, Nina.